welcome everyone to season 7, episode 2 of the Focus TV. We have Octavia White here, Raymond Lyons. I'm Wilson Tarpey Jr. And we're gonna get straight into it. It's week 10. It's crazy that we're already in week 10 of the NFL season. Octavia, what's going on in your division? Well, in y'all's division. I'm sorry.
Right, we in here too. Yeah, man, it's same old. One thing I think I say a lot is games within divisions are always tough. As we've seen around the league this week, not just in the NFC East. You playing those inter division games, you never know what can happen. Except when the Dallas Cowboys play the New York Giants. We know exactly what's going to happen. And that's exactly what happened. Dallas defeated the New York Giants 49-17. I mean, they had to add 9 more points from the 40-0 they beat them at the beginning of the season, but I guess so. Dak Prescott was 26 of 35, 404 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 2 carries for 17 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. He was sacked 0 times. Rico Dowdle had 12 carries for 79 yards and 1 touchdown. CeeDee Lamb had 11 receptions, 151 yards for 1 touchdown, and 1 carry for 14 yards for 1 touchdown. Brandon Cooks had 9 receptions for 173 yards and 1 touchdown. Michael Gallup had 2 receptions for 70 yards and 1 touchdown. Jake Ferguson had 4 receptions for 26 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, it had to be a lot of them to get to 49, but Jesus Christ. On the other side, the lowly Giants, Tommy DeVito was 14 of 27 for 86 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He had 7 carries for 41 yards. He was sacked 5 times. Saquon Barkley had, I always miss a number when I do this. This is crazy. Saquon Barkley had, what is this? I'm sorry, I'm having a moment. Here we go. Had 13 carries for 66 yards. Yeah, that's it. Daniel Bellinger had 2 receptions. Oh, I'm sorry, and Saquon Barkley had 1 reception for -5 yards. Daniel Bellinger had 2 receptions for 34 yards. Lawrence Cager had 1 reception for 10 yards and 1 touchdown. And Sterling Shepard had 1 reception for 2 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because, I mean, why? I mean, I don't know what anybody else expected. Tommy DeVito's playing, and the Cowboys are good, and the Giants are not. I know last week we talked about the Giants having a real shot at the number 1 pick. Oh, that shot got that much bigger. And it's probably going to continue to be trending in that direction. So honestly, for the Giants, the only thing I'm looking forward to is seeing what happens in the offseason in the quarterback situation. It's really all I care. Maybe what Saquon end up doing. I mean, he's been reported by saying he doesn't want to be traded. I don't know why. I would be like, please get me out of here. It's wasting all his good years, if you want to think about it that way. If you want to say somebody had a decent game, I look at all of these teams' websites to see like how they're feeling about their players. You know, Aziz Ojal, I can never say his name. Ojolari, there we go. He came back from an ankle injury. He had a pretty good game. He made a big 4th down stop at the goal line on the game's first possession. Kudos to him because it meant nothing. I mean, it's a lot of blame that can go around in this situation for the Giants. Of course, a lot of it, well, I don't even say a lot of it because even when they were healthy, they weren't that great. But some of it can go towards injuries. We know Daniel Jones out for the year with a knee. Tyrod Taylor's still on injury reserve. And whatever Tommy DeVito is doing and they still got Matt Barkley back there somewhere, I guess. Darren Waller, who was a key off-season addition for them, still hurt. At this point, there's no point in bringing him back. I would just let him rest up because there's no point. Every week I say, can it get worse? And it does. It's probably gonna get worse next week as well. Interesting stat. In the first half, the Giants made just one first down on offense. Just one in the entire first half. While the Dallas Cowboys had 20. I don't know how you expect to win a game like that. There's no way. By the time the game was over, Dallas outgained the Giants by a historic margin of 640 yards to 172. Yeah. And honestly, my last note that I put for this game, just shut the whole season down. Just shut it down. I wish they could just forfeit the rest of their games. I pray to God they don't have them listed on any other primetime games. And I think they do. For some odd reason, I feel like they play Thanksgiving, but I'm not sure. And because I don't want to look at their schedule because why? They're 2-8. They're 1-5 in the division, and they're lucky to be 1-5 in any division. And yeah, man, they still got another primetime game. And I don't know why. They played December 11th versus the Packers. Nobody wants to see that. Please flex this game away from us. Please. I'll say great things about the Cowboys. The historic numbers that they put up in the game, it was inevitable. I know I have my own personal bias feelings when it comes to it. I mean, the talk shows this week were ridiculous. And I say this week and it's only Tuesday. Is Dak one of the best? Could he be like one of the best quarterbacks ever in Dallas franchise history? And I'm like, come on, guys. They played the Giants. I'm not saying Dak's not good. I'm not saying that. They played the Giants. And we can't say it next week either because they play the only other team that could possibly be worse than the Giants, the Panthers. So I don't want to hear it next week either. It's as we all should know, it's not about what the Cowboys do in the regular season. They've had back-to-back 12-win seasons. They win games. They're a good team. It's about what they put together in the postseason. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But yes, they are having an amazing run. In this game, their run game came alive. They had only been averaging 3.9 yards per carry. But obviously they were able to do a lot. As I said, Rico Dotto had 79 yards. Dak ran for 17. CD had a run. Like, they did enough. Their red zone offense was there. Again, Giants. But step in the right direction. As I've said, a lot of teams around the league as a whole have been struggling in the red zone. So it's not just delegated or regulated to just an NFC East team, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants, the Commanders. It's been around the league. So they were able to do well in the red zone. Brandon Cooks has proven why he was brought there. He went 7 games without a 50-yard receiving game. So this was a big game for him. CD has been on a tear. 7 catches for 104 yards and a touchdown in the first half. Just the first half. CeeDee Lamb, he's had 4 straight 100-yard receiving games. And apparently he is the first person to ever have put up 10 receptions and 150 yards in 3 straight games. Amazing. He's killing it. Over the last 4 games, he's had 41 receptions for 620 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. He's had 22 explosive plays during that time, completed 6 of 7 attempts on contested catches, and has forced 6 missed tackles. He's killing it. Again, I just want to see it in the postseason. They played the Giants. The Giants suck. But you win the games that are put on your schedule. That's what you're supposed to do. This is great. It's also a great step for them as well. Well, I don't want to say step because, like when you say you're supposed to, there are games that you're supposed to win. We go back and think about the game against Arizona. That was a game they were supposed to win. They weren't able to do it. This was another game that they were supposed to win. They went out there and put their foot on their neck. The only blemish that I can say is how the hell y'all let them score 17 points. So I guess you got to give them something, but that would be the only thing. So yeah, that was a debacle. Again, the Dallas Cowboys will be playing against the Carolina Panthers, and I expect something similar. Maybe not as outlandish, but something similar. And the New York Giants will have another go at it with the Washington Commanders. I'm sure the Commanders are going to be on some get back because that is a terrible game that they lost earlier in the season. And we'll get to the Commanders who are coming off of a tough defeat. So I expect them to want to go out and perform well. The Washington Commanders played against the Seattle Seahawks. They lost to the Seahawks 26-29. Sam Howell was 29 of 44, 312 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 carries for 17 yards. He was sacked 3 times. Brian Robinson Jr. had 8 carries for 38 yards, 6 receptions for 119 yards, and 1 touchdown. Antonio Gibson had 4 carries for 13 yards, 5 receptions for 42 yards and a touchdown. And De'Ami Brown had 2 receptions for 41 yards and 1 touchdown. This was a good game. It was probably a lot. I don't want to say a lot closer because I don't think the Commanders are a terrible team. It's always like, I love the saying that I stole from you and you stole from somebody. Like, bad teams usually do bad things. And that's just what I expect of Washington, just because they have not been able to get together majority of my life. And then you see Seattle, they're playing well. The defense is playing well. Geno is playing well. They have 3 very capable wide receivers in DK Metcalf, as well as Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then, of course, Tyler Lockett. And then, here we go, MVP of the game, the kicker. There were multiple walk-off field goal wins this weekend, and this was one of them. And unfortunately for the Commanders, they were on the wrong side of it. But they had a chance to win the game. It kind of falls back down on the defense. I don't know whose idea was to not cover DK Metcalf in the middle of the field. If Jack Del Rio's seat isn't warm, it should be more than warm at this point. Jack, I feel like the only one that's safe is Eric, to be honest. And Eric has had his flaws within the system as well. He's still getting his footing with the new organization. But I think he did make some strides this week. He schemed up a lot of screen passes to the running backs. So that's why you had a lot of running backs with a lot of yardage. Brian Robinson Jr., Antonio Gibson, who I've always said I don't believe is a true running back, but that's what he plays. And he had, 5 receptions for the 42 yards and the 1 touchdown. And they're not drafting that well either. Cornerback Emmanuel Forbes is having a terrible rookie season. He's been benched early on in this year. He was ejected from this game due to a dirty hit. I don't want to say dirty hit because they said it wasn't dirty, but he did leave with his head. And he was ejected. There are conflicting arguments of if he should have been ejected or not. It's unfortunate for him in that situation. But I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the game, him per se, because he hasn't been playing that great anyway. But yeah, it's just that was a tough situation for them. With Bieniemy scheming more for the running backs, I feel like he needs to do a little bit more for his wide receivers. Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, that's your bread and butter in the game. Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson combined to catch only 4 passes for 33 yards on 10 targets in this game. Somehow they still almost won the game, probably with the running backs. Sam Howell, I guess, is the franchise. Stuff happens quickly in Washington when it comes to saying somebody is the franchise, and then something crazy happens and they're no longer the franchise because they go on like a terrible streak of some sort. So kudos to Sam. I feel like he's had a very good year. I read something very interesting that apparently Sam Howell is the NFL's leading passer. crazy leading passer, but I don't think they're in the playoff race right now. They're in the hunt. They're not there yet. It's kind of wild though. He is completing 66.5% of his passing attempts for 2,783 yards. A lot of those was against the Philadelphia Eagles, so that makes sense. I remember those games. With 17 touchdowns and 9 interceptions through 10 games. After the completion of Week 10, Howell is now the NFL's leading passer, 15 yards ahead of C.J. Stroud. It's important. Howell has played one other game than some of the other people on the list. But as of now, he is 5th in passing yards per game at 278.3, tied for 3rd in touchdowns at 17, 1st in completions at 264, and 1st in passing yards at 2783. So, I mean, kudos to him. He's playing well. It's definitely going to give you that feel that he should have the reins for a long period of time. But as we know, the NFL changes quickly. So I'll be interested to see how that all shakes out for him. But again, the Washington Commanders are in the hunt. They're currently 3rd in the division, but they are, I can never find my tabs when I need them. But they are 4-6. They're not at 500 yet. And they still have a little ways to go in order to climb up the ladder. They're currently 9th in the NFC behind the Tampa Bay Bucks. Those two teams are the top 2 looking from the outside. You have Philly at 1, Detroit at 2, San Fran at 3, New Orleans at 4, Seattle at 5, Dallas at 6, Minnesota surprisingly at 7. But anything can change. We still have 7 or 8 games left in the season. And I feel like they have a favorable-ish schedule where they could possibly make a little bit of a run. I mean, they play the Seahawks. They just played them. They play the Giants. But I take it back. They don't have that much of a favorable run. So it's going to be tough for them. They got the Giants next week. But after that, they'll have the Cowboys, Dolphins, the Rams, the Jets, the Niners, and the Cowboys. So ballparking it, just looking. I mean, didn't they just beat the Jets? No, they just lost to the Jets. They almost beat them. It was that close. Maybe they could get 3 games. Oh no, I'm thinking about the Giants. They didn't play the Jets. They didn't play the Jets yet. But I feel like they could probably beat the Jets, Giants. It's a toss-up depending on what the Rams are going to do. If Matthew Stafford is back from the finger injury and they got backed up Carson Wentz, got him on another team. So yeah, it's definitely a possibility, but all these other teams are playing well as well. So we'll see. The Eagles will be off of a bye and they'll play Monday night. So if not here Tuesday, no why.
I'm not going to be here. Disclaimer again off a nationally televised game.
I'm tired of the nationally televised games. Why does this have to happen?
Your team's good. They're going to be on TV. That's how it works. And then apparently it works if your team's horrible. You also end up on TV. If you're in the middle, it's a toss.
I feel like this week is probably the best primetime games we've had all year. Thursday, you got Baltimore and Cincinnati.
That's going to be a good one.
Monday night you have Philadelphia and Kansas City, and Sunday night is like Sunday night you got Minnesota and Denver, who are both playing surprisingly well. So not a terrible.
Only reason I don't care about the Minnesota one anymore, after what Josh Dobbs has done, apparently they're going back to the other quarterback because.
Oh, yeah. I have a friend that's a Vikings fan. I'm like, so you done with Kirk? He was like, yep, I'm done. But we know teams don't always work like that. Your team doesn't always do what you want them to do. So,
hey man, the way Kirk's agent works, he's done with you when they're done with you. It's not up to your team. It's when they're done. When Kirk's people release your team from their contract, that's when it's done, and not a minute before that. All right, Ray. Wizards.
Oh God, let me pray for y'all real fast. Hold on. All right, good luck. Because
Man, definitely needed that moment of silence. Yeah, man, the Wizards in their last three games were 0-3, and they could have easily been 3-0. Yeah, they managed to squander away three winnable games, and I mean, like, extremely winnable. Like, they lost the game within the last 4 or 5 minutes, winnable. It's an art at this point. Yeah, it's rough. Last night's game was that was the coup de grace because they were firmly in control for 43 minutes, and everything just fell off a cliff, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Um, yeah, they went the last 7 minutes without a field goal. The last 5.5 minutes without scoring a point. Toronto finished the game on a 21-1 run to go ahead and snatch that one on their home floor. Yeah, man, it's just same things that have been plaguing them all season. They the defense in the paint was non-existent. They gave up 76 points in the paint. We talked about it a little bit on Wizards Outlook why we didn't see Gaff a lot in the second half when he's literally the only presence on the defensive interior. So yeah, that was definitely a questionable decision. Then they just started turning the ball over out of nowhere, down the stretch. I think the last three possessions of the game all resulted in turnovers. One of which where Kuzma decided to stay back and try to convince the coach to challenge and leave his team in in a 5-4 situation, and the Raptors got a layup. So that's the type of season it's been so far for the Wizards, man. There have been some bright spots over the last few games. The bench has contributed nicely in each of the three games, which is good to see. Balil Koulibaly, he's put together a couple good games. He's looking more comfortable. Of course, with rookies, it's just a continuous progression, and he seems to be finding his way, so that's promising. I like what it looks like when him and Denny are on the court together defensively. We talk about that very often, about that being a area of improvement for them. But yeah, man, their defense held up for most of the game yesterday. Over these last three games, they've had spots where they look like a competent team on that end of the floor. They just kind of got to find a way to make that more consistent, man. Um, you know, Tomorrow they play a team where you cannot afford not to play defense. They got the Mavericks in the house. You cannot play defense against Luka and Kyrie if you want to. They both can easily go for 40 on any given night. So yeah, they're gonna have to be locked in for that. But yeah, man, it's tough times for the Wizards right now. They're 2-8. You know, and the most disappointing part of that is a lot of those losses could be wins. And even even in the spots where they're playing well and can win the games, they're not doing like even last night. They were on fire for the first half. I think they shot 62% from the field in the first half, and it didn't even look like it was anything that wasn't sustainable. I mean, of course, they're not going to shoot that well every single game, but they were moving the ball, they were getting good shots. People were playing within themselves, making good decisions. So I don't understand how you go from that for 40 plus minutes to crunch time and just forget how to play basketball. So somebody's going to have to take control of the reins, man, because the guys who have hold of the reins right now, yeah, that ain't it, man. No disrespect to them, but they I don't think they're in a position where they can be the guys. So they're gonna keep trucking along. They got the Mavs tomorrow. They got the Knicks on Friday, and then Monday they got the Bucks. So it doesn't get any easier for them. You know, Hopefully they can find a way to close some games.
Yeah, like you said, look, man, it's only 10 games, but man, opportunities that were given to a couple of those folks to see if you could be more than what you were at your previous stops. And 2-8, right? So 2-8, multiple winnable games. All we've gotten so far, which is kind of unfair at times because the world we live in, the negative outshines the positive, is a ton of viral content for all of the wrong reasons. We get something every night from that group. And like you said, we'll see what they got to deal with tomorrow night. They've had issues with the glass, which is something we've talked about on Wednesday's Outlook consistently the past few games. You mentioned Luka and Kyrie tomorrow. Man, somebody got to go put a body out on Derek Lively tomorrow too. Another young bouncy big. We saw what Mark Williams did. Mark Williams had my career night. Put video game numbers up against them on offensive glass. So we'll see what it looks like. We're going to take our first break when we get back. College basketball. Then a little bit after that, we'll get into rapid fire, which we got some fun topics. Again, you're watching the Focus TV. We will return in just a bit. Welcome back to the Focus TV. As promised, to get to college basketball segment. The Maryland Terrapin women, we told you guys they had a big week. They won their home opener, obviously. Then Brenda decided to schedule these two very tough games in games 2 and 3 of their season. She talked about a little bit later in the game. I think a section, just a snippet of what she said after the game. It's a growth week. I think that's a perfect way to look at it. You schedule 2 top 10 teams back to back like that. But the Terps went into the Lions' Den this weekend, Sunday afternoon, with the take on the Gamecocks. Maryland held up for like the first 16 minutes of the game. They let go of the rope a little at the end of the first half. And then that's kind of like when South Carolina took control of the game and just didn't look back. But as far as the first quarter, most of the first half, honestly, it was a back and forth affair. Both teams were trading baskets. Both teams were getting stops. Both teams got a little hot from deep. Maryland knocking down 7 to 12 of their attempts from behind the arc. And in South Carolina, one of the things that's been an issue for them the past couple of years at times is they've been in situations where they didn't have enough outside shooting. And obviously, we're only a couple games into the season, but they knocked down 6 of their 15 attempts. And some of those shots is kind of what helped open things up. We know what they are with their size and their athleticism. You still got Cardozo down inside, as you see here in the clip. Faith getting the step on her at that moment. But the last 4 minutes and a half, and again, in South Carolina, is what good teams do. This is what separates good teams from great teams and things of that nature, is those moments, right? So we're going to get to, here we go. We're about, 4:30 left in the first half? Everything's okay right now. Maryland even takes a little lead. They end up going up, I think, 31-25. The game gets tied at 31 with 3:43 to go in the first half. South Carolina closed the half on a 9-0 run. They take a 12-point lead into the half. Maryland would go on a couple runs in the third quarter, but when you're down double digits already, while you can go on runs, but you can't keep the other team quiet and you're just trading baskets, it is what it is at that point. We've seen this just much too well with the team we talked about in our last segment. You get behind the 8 ball and sometimes you just can't catch up. But the size and depth of South Carolina wore Maryland down over the course of the game. South Carolina beat Maryland 114-76. Again, as of right now, what's up on the screen? It's 31-31. Everything's okay at the moment until it isn't. And a great job by South Carolina to close the half in that fashion. Cheyenne Sellers led Maryland with 21 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. She did have 6 turnovers, which is highly uncharacteristic for her. 4 other Terps scored in double figures in Jakia Brown-Turner, Faith Masonis, Brene Alexander, and Bree McDaniel. South Carolina was led, I hope I pronounced this right, to this young lady, Tahina Paopao, with 14 points and 8 assists. She's an Oregon transfer. 6 other players scored in double figures in a very balanced effort for the Gamecocks. After the game, Brenda went on to say, loved our fight to start the game. I thought the first 16 minutes we came in really confident. I thought we battled and we were able to match them on the boards. I think the last 3.5 minutes, they just wore us out. We made a lot of silly mistakes. I don't know if I've seen a game with so many and ones. I thought Breen Alexander had some really good minutes off the bench. Brian Alley, had some really good minutes off the bench. It's a growth week for us, knowing we've got 2 top 10 opponents in South Carolina and UConn, and we know these games will make us better in the future. As Coach Freed alluded to, they'll face previously ranked number 2 UConn, who's dropped because they got upset in their first game. Full transparency, women's basketball, you got to do a little bit better with your rankings. They had no business being ranked that high. However, just keeping it a buck, I don't like to lie. Just try to tell the truth. Pay me no mind. They are not the UConn of old. They need to earn that standing back to start the season, ranked where you guys had them. That is not right to much more deserving teams. So that outcome, if you did right, that outcome would just be like, okay, it's an upset, but shouldn't be number 2 in the country. But UConn will be hosting Maryland on Thursday night, and then Maryland returns home to host Syracuse on Sunday. Again, Brenda is not playing about the non-conference schedule in these tough games early on. And kudos to them for that. We're going to take our second break. When we get back, going to talk a little rapid fire. Got some interesting topics. I think most of them NFL related. But you're watching the Focus TV. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Focus TV Rapid Fire. Got a few questions for you all. This one should be, fun, just because. The Buffalo Bills, life comes at you fast. 1 minute you're starting the year quick, MVP candidate, yada, yada, yada. Next thing you know, 12 men on the field on a field goal kick. When the kicker goes full shankopotamus, they get another chance. This time they drill the kick right down the middle. I don't know if you guys saw the Manning cast last night, but Kyle Brandt from Good Morning, Good Morning NFL or whatever.
Good Morning Football.
Good Morning Football, I'm sorry. Thank you so much, because I was going to butcher the name of that show, but y'all know what I'm talking about. He was on the Manning cast, and his face going through the emotions of what happened at the end of that game is outstanding television. He is a proud Bills fan, Bills Mafia through and through. He could not accept it. If y'all get a chance, Google it, hop on Twitter. It will not take long to find it. You watched all of Bills Mafia trying to understand what they just witnessed. And honestly, shout out to the Broncos for as much crap as we've all given them, most of which they deserved. It's a big win. You put the Bills at 5-5, but then the Bills turned around after losing last night. They fired offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey. Buffalo is ranked as having one of the better offenses in the league. It's ranked top 10. Dorsey replaced now Giants head coach Brian Dable. They have named QB coach Joe Brady as his interim replacement. So my question for you guys, with everything going on with the Bills, is it something as simple as it was just the offensive coordinator? We need to change something, or is this more of a scapegoat type situation? Also, just throw this in too. Josh Allen is currently leading the league in interceptions again. Ray, we'll start with you, and then Octavia.
Yeah, man, I'm here for the Josh Allen discourse, or lack thereof. Like, no mention of him anywhere. It's crazy. Let that be Lamar Jackson. Yeah, man. Like, and the Ken Dorsey thing, I definitely feel like that was a knee-jerk reaction and some scapegoat stuff. Talk about Josh Allen, because when he had an exciting overtime loss to the Chiefs, he was the second coming, and now it's radio silence. So Yeah, that's tough, man. But hey, man, kudos to him for dodging the smoke. But yeah, that's nasty. A lot of this has got to lay at his feet. Like you said, he leads the league in interceptions, 2 years running now. So yeah, I'm just waiting for the moment when some accountability gets hurled his way.
Octavia.
I have a great idea. Brian Dable should just go back. I know he don't want to be in New York no more. Well, that part of New York, I guess. He should just go back. Just redo it over. I know he don't want to be a head coach of the Giants no more. But yeah, it was so hard to watch the game because literally first play from scrimmage, James Cook fumbles, and then I think their second possession it was a close turnover, but the Broncos player stepped out of bounds. That's what I said. Like, yeah, firing of Ken Dorsey to me was just something like we got to do something because Stephon going off, his brother back there talking for him too. Like, get my man out of there. Like so, and we know all of the off-season noise and last season noise from the blow up between him and Josh on the sideline. It's getting real loud up there. I have a friend who is a diehard Bills fan, and he's just like, bro, turn it off. Like, he don't even want to see it no more. And it's crazy because I do feel like we give them the benefit of the doubt because of what we've seen them do in the past. But we got to be at the point where, like, we can't rely on that anymore. Like, I don't know what's happening. They have good pieces. Dalton Kincaid is good. Of course, Diggs. Cooks can be good if he can hold on to the ball. And we know what Josh Allen is. But I don't know. I really don't know what the issue is. Like, I think the firing of the offensive coordinator, like you said, is kind of a scapegoat thing. It's like, all right, well, the offense looks pretty bad, so I guess we got to do that. But, the defense don't look that great neither. And, granted, I know they have a lot of injuries in the defense with
Tre'Davious White's going. Also, may I interject real quick? Mm-hmm. They fired the defensive coordinator. The current defensive coordinator is the head coach. Please continue.
Oh, I don't think I know that. Oh, that makes it that much worse. And you can't fire the defensive coordinator. So you're like, just fire an offensive one. I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I really don't know where to go with them because it was a bad look. It was a bad look, but kudos to the Broncos. I feel like we give them we give them a hard time because of the 70-20 game, which they deserved. They definitely deserved it, but it's and we talk about schedules too. The Broncos don't have it, not the Broncos, the Bills don't have it that much easier either. If they think, like in their brain, they think they're gonna get into the AFC playoff race. They got the Jets, who they've already lost to. So they play the Eagles. Before this, I was, Eagles, we got a tough little stretch. I'm like, we can get that one now. We can chill on that game. They played the Chiefs. They play the Cowboys. They play the Chargers. They get a week with the Patriots, and then they play the Dolphins again. So I don't know if firing the offensive coordinator is going to fix all of that, but I guess we shall see.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but the defensive coordinator wasn't fired. Either way, he didn't come back from last year. It was Leslie Frazier. And he took a lot of the blame last season for what was going on with them defensively. He decided to take a year off. Sean McDermott, it was like, hey, I'll do it myself. Here we are. Shout out to Leslie Frazier for getting out of the situation. I wouldn't want to be blamed for all this going on.
These coaches gotta stop having so much pride to think they can do multiple things at one time. Because it ain't working too well. Did they not see what happened in what's happening in New England when they just thought any coach could do anything?
I don't know, but the dude leads the NFL in touchdowns and interceptions. I feel like that's not a good thing. I feel like that might be an issue. You feel like you might be hurting your team just a little tiny bit. But again, none of my business. And Ray, as you said, Lamar had a very special offensive coordinator to start his career in the NFL, whose passing game was behind what he played in college. Then this year he gets a passing coordinator from this century, offense coordinator from this century, and the passing game, the concepts look like stuff you see that other teams actually run. And Lamar looks good throwing the football. We just saw Lamar get blamed, rightfully so, had some issues against the Browns, which defense is on a historic pace or whatever, but people don't like context. That's fine and dandy. Let's throw that out the window. But you just lost to the Broncos. Again, it's not a knock on the Broncos, but if you're supposed to be who you're supposed to be, and I've watched some of the things that were said when supposed teams who are supposed to be what they're supposed to be lose games, people don't have, like, I've learned that apparently there's no excuses for those things. Context is not needed. Buffalo, what's up? I think they started the year 5 straight, or went 5-1 to start the year, like 1-5 since, like.
Yeah, they're at 500. They're a 500 team right now.
How are they at 500?
They're below, but the Texans are having an amazing year.
We're gonna get to that. Thank you so much for that.
But just one other thing to kind of piggyback off, because I forgot what Ray was saying. Like, let that have been Lamar Jackson. Let that have been Jalen Hurts as well, because Jalen has had a lot of interceptions this year, and people have been real loud about it. But Josh did this last year. Jalen was amazing last year. And the chirping is louder for Jalen this year than it is for Josh, who's been doing it 2 years in a row. So,
as for Josh at this moment, just pulling up these handy dandy numbers, he leads the league with 11 picks. Jordan Love and Mac Jones are right behind him with 10 apiece. So Sam Howell only has 9. Pat Mahomes only has 8. Jalen Hurts also only has 8. Sir, what is going on? But again, we have time to question former MVPs of the league. Waiting for this dude to do it. Bro, they've been broke. Like, Josh Allen and the Bills have been broken since they lost to KC in overtime. Like, they've just been broken. Like there's going to be a 30 for 30 on what happened to the Bills during this time. Because they went from the team of the future, they're here and that.
Yep.
Like, this is like full Lob City behavior right here.
Yeah, life comes at you fast.
So fast. You've done nothing. And matter of fact, I thank you again. You brought up CJ, right? Y'all looking up at CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans in the standings right now. That's what you're currently doing. You are looking up at the team that had the number 2 overall pick. But you have Josh Allen, destroyer of worlds. Interesting. The Texans took down the Bengals in overtime this weekend. CJ Stroud outdueled Joe Burrow, who's another one of those guys who's allowed to do whatever they want and gets carte blanche to. It's everyone's fault but mine. Anyways, Burrow lost his game with his 2 picks. CJ, the poor young rookie that he is, didn't make it as many mistakes as Joe Cool. And the Texans are now 5-4 and sitting 7th place in the AFC, ahead of Cincinnati and Buffalo. Some have mentioned that, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow should be a part of the MVP conversation this year. All these things that people do with quarterbacks that they like. So my question is, if this dude just went to Cincinnati, that's in Cincinnati, I believe, that's that orange in the end zone, did what he just did in front of everybody, bro, when you get selected number 2 overall and your team's nobody, was a first-year head coach, a lot of new stuff going on in Houston at the moment, right? On the year, Mr. Stroud has thrown for 2,626 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 2 picks. We just finished talking about a gentleman just a minute ago who has thrown 9 picks, and you've been in the league a lot longer than young CJ. He also has a quarterback rating of 101. It's his first go-round. It's his first time seeing all these things. Is he or should he be considered a viable MVP candidate? Octavia.
Well, I got a lot to say about Mr. C.J. Stroud. First of all, I just Googled him because I like to Google because I be wanting to know what people's real name is. We're gonna call him CJ. I don't know what a Coleridge is, okay? But Coleridge Bernard, what's his name? Coleridge Bernard Stroud the fourth is playing out his mind. And it's like I play in a pick'em league, so we pick the games. I picked Cincinnati. I think most people probably picked Cincinnati to win this game, even though the Texans have been playing great. Cincinnati has kind of got back into their little bit of a rhythm over the last couple of games. I was sitting there like, I picked Cincinnati to win, but I don't want him to win no more because it looked that good. And he's doing it with, now granted, I hate this, and I'm going to say it, but I hate this analysis because you can't control the personnel around you. Because a lot of people like to say, oh, like last year, for example, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes in the MVP conversation. Well, Patrick is doing it with way less. He doesn't have an AJ Brown. He doesn't have a Devontae Smith. So it holds more weight with Patrick. I don't like that personally. I just feel like you got who you got. You got to play with them. It's not his fault. He got good players. But in this aspect, if you want to use that argument, CJ is playing with Nico Collins, Noah Brown, Tank Dell, who's also a rookie, Noah Brown, who we thought he would be good in Dallas. It didn't work out for him there. Now I picked him up in fantasy on the hump and I was like, oh, Jesus, this helped a lot for me to win my game. They're doing it with Dameon Pierce not having a good year after having a pretty good rookie season. They're doing it with Devin Singletary back there, who had an amazing game as well. It's like infused in them. And if we're talking about MVP conversation, he should definitely be in it. I think the knock on him before probably these last couple of games was just that the Texans didn't have a good record. And I personally do believe that in order to be a viable contender in it, you got to have your team winning. He's proven to do that now. They're in the playoff race. They make the playoffs and he continues to play like this over the next 8 games. Oh, he's definitely a top contender in that. And he's just so calm and cool. And I just be like, it's like nothing. I hate to say because I don't like to compare him to people who've done it multiple years. It gives me Pat Mahomes vibes because I never feel like at the end of a game, if Pat needs to score, that he can't do it. Like I never feel like that. And over these last couple of games with CJ, it's been like that where he gotta take the team down there and they gotta score. And I don't feel like he can't do it. I feel like yeah, he about to go. I knew, I was like, he about to walk them back down this field and score, even after throwing a pick 6. That the one mistake that he's made, and you just said he's had 2 interceptions the entire year. So before Sunday, he only had 1. That's wild. So he's killing it. Kudos to him. We talk about the MVP race. Let's start talking about the Coach of the Year race. D'Amico Ryans, congratulations. You have arrived. Especially in an organization that has had turmoil over the last however many years you want to say, trying to find somebody to replace the whole Deshaun Watson situation, and to have this 22-year-old come in here and play the way that he's been playing with the players that he has around him is media gold, number one. Like there's no show, there's no podcast, there's nowhere, anything that's sports related that should not be talking about CJ Stroud, because he is hands down killing it. I don't know who they play next week. I'm gonna look though, and at this point I just feel like they about to just win. And I mean, they play the Cardinals next week. Chalk it up as a W. Get it done. I mean, the Cardinals had a pretty good game with Kyler Murray coming back, but I got CJ Stroud all day.
Right.
The results are the results, man. Like you can't argue with what's going on the field. So to me, he's definitely in that conversation. Like Octavia said, if they keep this trajectory and get into the playoffs, I think it's his to lose, to be perfectly honest, because And like in a lot of these conversations, like perception is everything. Nobody expected him to be in this position, and for him to elevate them the way that he has, like you just gotta give him the respect that he's earned. So yeah, I just hope he continues to play well. And yeah, man, if he holds this up, yeah, you're gonna be hard pressed to find an argument against him because yeah, if they were to be one of the bottom feeders, nobody would bat an eye to that. Like, so yeah, man, he need a little bit more respect on his name, man.
Yeah, and the other thing is, everyone, everyone, you got people's coaches tree, right? You got Kyle McVay, all that stuff or whatever, and people pick and choose which members of the coaching tree to highlight. This was literally, since people like to pick and choose when they talk, this was a battle of people in those trees. This was, you got D'Amico and Bobby Slowick in Houston taking on the Bengals coach? I forget his name all the time. Either way, it's
Zach Taylor.
There you go. He's out of the McVay tree or whatever. So I think it's interesting how we pick and choose, the media does, when it's time to highlight folks from certain people's trees. D'Amico, out of everyone out of Kyle's tree, he went to the worst place. Saleh went to the Jets. The Jets had a defense. The Jets had some stuff. Like he went to a place where it's like, hey, figure out the quarterback thing. And even this year, what they do? Hey, Zach Wilson, you're bad. Go get Aaron Rodgers. Like, real quick. It's cool. Mike went down there to the Dolphins. They didn't start from the bottom anything. He went down there only ready to spend money. A couple moves. Here we go. We're off and running. Bro, they just had the number 2 pick in the draft. They're still looking for the wide receiver 1. Don't have any big names anywhere. Outside, like Larry Tunsil might be the big name, and anytime your offensive lineman is the first big name that comes to mind after your quarterback, weapon-wise, you're going through it a little bit on, from a public standpoint. But nah, just credit to all those involved. And if this was somebody else, we'd be going crazy about a quarterback starting their career 15 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. We would be going nuts. Even so, like, to give Sam Howell his credit, EB's over there, right? Bieniemy's over there. Who the hell has Sam Howell on a bingo card leading the NFL in passing yards?
Not me, because when I read it today, we were getting ready for the show, I was like, you gotta be.
Okay, got another one for you before we move on. Out of that type of offense, out of that tree or whatever, out of the Kyle tree, since everybody likes just talking about trees or whatever, the top 3 quarterbacks in terms of average, like per attempt, because that scheme gets talked about for the dink and dunkage or whatever it may be. The guys leading the league the 3 guys leading the league are all in that scheme. One of them's on the screen. CJ's number 3 in the league at 8.3. Tua, who people don't like Tua Tagovailoa for whatever he did in his life. I don't know what he did. He's at 8.5 yards. And Mr. Irrelevance at 9.3. Obviously, Yak plays a role here and there for all of them, but bro, the dude has 15 touchdowns and 2 picks. This is what you pay Josh Allen for. This dude's in year 1. 2 picks? Come on, man. Like, you're not supposed to get it that easy. And also, as you mentioned, I feel a little bit bad for the Cardinals because this week going into that matchup, typically you got AFC, NFC, teams are usually unfamiliar with each other. Who just spent 2 years in the NFC West? Who knows Kyler very well? Oh, that'd be D'Amico as a former defensive coordinator. Yeah, Kyler, hi. I'm sure you guys are going to be happy to see each other.
Welcome back.
Yeah. So some of those folks, like, and that's what it, like, pretty much what's happening over there, which is why Octavia, I love you brought up the coach of the year thing is, right, it's just they're getting everything they can out of what they have over there. Everything out of what they can. They're out there coaching. To our last question. Philadelphia 76ers are in the midst of an 8-game win streak. Looks like they haven't missed a beat since they got rid of one Mr. James Harden. Tyrone Maxey has even had a 50-point game during that time. However, we've heard a lot of noise about this. The start to the season the Celtics have had, deservedly so. They started the year on a mission. However, they're number 2 in the East because of the Sixers. The Sixers lead all of basketball with an 8-1 record. Thoughts on the Sixers to start the season and where they could go from here? It looks like it might be one of those cases of a massive addition by subtraction. Ray, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they're playing well right now. You can't argue against that. That unfortunately they're one of them teams that gets judged by what they do in the postseason. They've proven to be a team that can be successful, and their potential says that they should be contending for championships. They haven't gotten to the point where they've made that leap yet. So, it just is what it is, man. When you're talented, it comes with expectations. So they just got to live up to them, plain and simple. They seem to be on a crash course with the Celtics. Another team that is in that contending conversation. So yeah, man, we'll see. But again, like the regular season still means something, and they should definitely try to win as many games as they can and play as well as they can through the course of the 82. But yeah, they got to get it done in the postseason. But that's not to say that this their starts of the season hasn't been impressive, because it has. And yeah, getting rid of James Harden, it's got to be a big part of that. Just having that dark cloud hanging over you, and to be freed of that, it's got to be a refreshing feeling. And and their play is reflecting it. We've seen the ascension of Maxey, over the time he's been there, and it looks like he's developing into maybe that second guy for them. So yeah, man, kudos to them. I hope they keep it up. It's going to be interesting to see how the season shakes out for them.
Octavia.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said starting this off. It's addition and subtraction. Like, yeah, the loss of James Harden has been their game. It's crazy. I mean, this is exactly why Daryl Morey took as long as it took him to trade James to the Clippers, because he was not giving up Tyrese Maxey, as he should not have, as we have seen. The 50-point ball, I mean, even last year, I mean, watching him play against the Celtics, even though they didn't win, like, he was everywhere. Like, I personally think he is the Celtics kryptonite when it comes down to them playing against each other. He plays really well against them, and I don't know what it is. But yeah, I mean, you definitely have to give them kudos. 8-1. They beat the Celtics. They beat some good teams, especially with a lot of talk about, are the Celtics, like, think about it, when we go into the season, after all of the trades have been done in the offseason, the top 2 teams they were talking about in the East were Boston and Milwaukee. Nobody was really talking about Philadelphia, even though at that point they probably were still going through the motions with James Harden, which is probably a reason why. But here we got Milwaukee 6-4. It's not a great start to a season for them. And you got the Sixers 8-1. I mean, you guys talked about it when, granted, they played the Wizards. I mean, Embiid had 48. So, I mean, 48, 50 for Maxey. I mean, even look at Tobias Harris. I feel like he's more engaged than he has been in the last few years. And definitely want to say to get well for Kelly Oubre, who was hit by a car and had a broken rib. He was playing well with them as well. He's been looking to get to a contender. So, they have a good thing going on. I hate Doc had to lose his job because of it. If they were able to kind of settle that up before, who knows where we would be. But yeah, I think that the loss of James Harden, they've infused some newness into their team with Nick Nurse as the new coach. So yeah, they're having a great season, but also, like Ray said, we've seen it before. Maybe we've not seen 8-1 to start a season, but we've seen them be a viable contender in the East. It's now about if they're going to be able to pull it off and pull it together and get past the second round in the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, the Eastern Conference playoffs. If they're going to be able to get past the second round, because that seems to be also their kryptonite in order to get out of that. So, and you know, you only got such a certain window to kind of get through those things. You know, the talk about Joel and, you know, how he feels about being there. Hopefully this renews his dedication. Not saying he wasn't dedicated, but renews the, you know, the strength that he would feel in being there, and that they could be a playoff contending team and contend for a championship. Because if you think about it, that's really all he got left to get on his resume. You know, he's won MVP. You know, he's been all these other accolades. He needs to get to the big game. So yeah, it's been a great start for them. But my bias, of course, my Celtics are on their heels. You know, they still around. So it's definitely gonna be interesting. And then of course, you know, I said the Bucks are 6-4, but I kind of also chalk some of that up to they got Dame really, really late. So I'm sure they're still getting acclimated. As opposed to some of these other teams. But yeah, I mean, the East is still tough. We know, I feel like this is like the first time in a while where I feel like both conferences are pretty tough. It's going to take a lot to get out of first round, second round, get into a play-in for some of these teams. So yeah, I mean, they have to get it done in the playoffs though.
Yeah, I think y'all said it's a great start to the season for them. They're definitely in a group where it doesn't matter until you know, spring for you. No one cares, but great start. Thank you guys for tuning in this week. Don't forget to get over to thefocustv.com. You can tune into the Focus TV every Wednesday mornings early. It's 9:30 a.m. on our Roku channel. If you have a Roku television or device, all you have to do is type in the Focus TV in the search box, double tap OK, and you've added the channel. Again, look forward to catching up with you guys next week. For those of you that are Wizards fans, you watch Wizards Outlook, see y'all several times between now and next week. Y'all have a great week, and we'll see you soon. And Octavia sends you her prayers.